Well, folks. It is Wednesday, September 28th, and we are back for another edition of the MMA Ratings Hangout. This is Raphael Garcia of MMA Ratings. You can always catch me at rgarcia_sports, where I am talking MMA, boxing, football, just about any sport, except for maybe baseball and hockey. Don't talk those so much, but you never know, that may change in the near future. Either way, thank you for coming back and joining us on another Wednesday to close out the month of September. This is our last podcast for September before we head into October. And man, do we have a lot to talk about. My co-host, everyone's favorite analyst, and everyone's favorite commentator when it comes to breaking down fights, Schwan will be on the show later on today. I'm hoping I just sent him a text to remind him, but he should be on later on today. And we also have a special interview scheduled for later on with CFFC fighter Chris Piriz. Hoping he can come on later on today at 8:30 to talk about his career and just to talk about the state of MMA as a whole. And man, do we have a lot to talk about in reference to that. If you have not been what is going on in the sport, then you probably have been living under a rock or you're in a coma, something along those lines. Because this week has been a huge week when it comes to news and just information breaking about probably what's going to go down as at least the biggest fight card in UFC history to date. And it's amazing, man. I feel like I've said that at least 3 times so far this year, but it keeps happening. And every time it happens, it involves that man, Conor McGregor. Of course, I'm talking about UFC 205, which is the first event that is set for Madison Square Garden. It's the UFC's first event in New York since '95, I believe. And yeah, they're back to I didn't really remind everybody because nobody really forgot, but they've come back to let everybody know that they are the big boys in UFC, or excuse me, in mixed martial arts. They are the leaders in the sport. And man, I definitely agree that they are the biggest, probably growing sport in when it comes to the opportunity to have moments such as this. Like we know how big the Super Bowl is going to be every year. We know how big the NBA Finals, the World Series will be every year. We know how big the World Cup is going to be every year. But when the UFC puts moments together like what UFC 205 is expected to be, the anticipation is upped every time. And I think that this is no different. These last few days have been effing amazing when it comes to fight announcements, expectations, just everything that's going on with the sport. So go ahead and dive on into the conversation, and let's just go ahead and talk about that. Let me get myself situated here. I'm trying not to spill water on my laptop, and I am actually reading right now too as well. So with UFC 205, obviously, we got to start at the top. We can't talk about this card without starting at the very top, talking about the main event this week when Conor McGregor challenges Eddie Alvarez for the light heavyweight championship. Now, coming into this week, the conversation was surrounding the idea that Alvarez will be facing Khabib Nurmagomedov, who many consider to be the lightweight number one contender, even though he's only fought once in the past 2 years, and he fought his UFC debut. So taking the fight on short notice as well too. So that was the idea heading into this fight. Then there was the story swirling around that the fight agreement wasn't signed, and perhaps this bout will be moved to UFC 206, which is the one that is supposed to be in Toronto, then that there's a whole DSP around that. But that was the mentality coming into this week. A lot of people were, they were kind of ho hum on UFC 205. I remember watching the MMA beat last Thursday, where they were just they weren't, I don't want to say down on the sport, or excuse me, on the event, but they were talking about it in a way that wasn't as exciting based off of everything that happened at UFC 205 and 200, excuse me, and the way that event was expected to be huge, but was very ho hum, for lack of a better term. It wasn't what we thought it was going to be. Insert Danny Green quote at your own volition. But this week came around, and we got hit with the announcement that McGregor is fighting. He's fighting for the lightweight title. Now, I think this new story broke. Was it Monday? What's today? Today's Wednesday. I think the story broke Monday around 12:30, and I was immediately, one of my good friends that work back at ESPN, Phil Murphy. He's also a great MMA analyst and great anchor for the Worldwide Leader in Sports. We immediately started talking about it on Facebook, and it's like, man, this is a huge event. When you couple that with the fact that this card by itself, okay, this card features Conor McGregor versus Eddie Alvarez, Tyron Woodley versus Stephen Thompson, Joanna Jędrzejczyk against Karolina Kowalkiewicz, Chris Weidman, Yoel Romero, Khabib Nurmagomedov against Michael Johnson. That fight just got added yesterday. Frankie Edgar, Jeremy Stevens, Kelvin Gastelum, Donald Cerrone, Tim Kennedy. I forgot all about that fight. Miesha Tate, Raquel Pennington, Thiago Alves, Jim Miller, Raphael Natal, Tim Bosch. That's probably the worst fight on this card. Liz Carmouche, Caitlin Chukagian, and then you also have Belal Muhammad and Lyman Good. That may be the worst fight. I mean, just because it's Lyman Good, but it is what it is. That is this is a 13 fight card that is going to blow the doors off of anything that we've seen in the past. 3 good and well anticipated title fights. A preliminary card that's going to set up the next contender at light heavyweight. Excuse me, good. I keep doing that. At lightweight, potentially at featherweight, maybe at welterweight if Cerrone gets a big win. You got Rashad Evans and Tim Kennedy maybe pushing for a middleweight title shot. Miesha Tate and Raquel Pennington. The next women's bantamweight contender may come out of that fight. You got the returning Thiago Alves against the always tough Jim Miller. Raphael Natal, Tim Bosch. You got Liz Carmouche facing a very dangerous opponent in Caitlin Chukagian. Then you got the prospect Muhammad against Lyman Good. People who Lyman Good, who people kind of forgot about after he kind of fell off with Bellator. So there's so much that's really going on this card that it's almost overwhelming. Clearly at the top, McGregor Alvarez is the fight that everyone wants to see. Let me see. Trying to get Schwan in here real quick. Give me 1 second, people. But yeah, it's UFC 205, McGregor Alvarez. How do we break that fight down? I mean, Schwan's going to come on and talk about the technical aspects of these guys in the cage. I love to talk about the business side. And this is the right fight to make. I mean, Nurmagomedov is clearly the number one contender. I'm not going to say clearly, but he's the number one contender to that title. And yeah, that fight, Alvarez, Nurmagomedov, maybe 300,000 buys, 500,000, somewhere along those lines, depending on the rest of the card. But Alvarez McGregor is going to do big numbers. I don't know if it's going to do as big as Diaz McGregor, but it probably might come close, especially with the rest of the card that's built under that. But there are a couple of questions I immediately had. How much money is McGregor getting paid? He just got paid $5 million for the Diaz fight, and there's no telling how much he's going to be making for this fight against Alvarez. Hey, Schwan, you just joined us, I see.
Yeah, how's it going?
It's going good, man. Going good. How's your week?
I've been busy. Had to watch a lot of footage, sparring and stuff for fighters, and a whole lot of news in MMA today. So a lot of stuff to process.
Man, when you talk about who you telling? Like, you probably heard about what's going to go down in a few weeks at UFC 205, correct?
Yes, sir.
Man, like what? Like, I was sitting up. I just happened to be up at 12:30 on a Monday doing some work when that fight announcement came across. What was the first thing you thought of when you saw that Conor McGregor is going to be challenging for the lightweight title?
In a sense, I was kind of surprised because I figured at some point he'd go back after the lightweight title, but I was kind of shocked that they got it done so quickly because McGregor knows he has a lot of leverage. Like the UFC can't play him the same way they play everybody else because he constantly brings in money and eyes and attention. So I was kind of, because I didn't think that Dana would be willing to concede on anything to pay McGregor what McGregor knows he's worth and demands to get. And as a result, Eddie Alvarez is going to demand big money because of what Nate Diaz got paid when he fought McGregor. So like now on it's going to be that Floyd Mayweather effect where the guy who's fighting Floyd got the biggest payday of their career, and the guy who's fighting Conor McGregor will now be getting the biggest payday of their career moving forward.
We can't really hear you. We can't really hear you. Your volume dropped down there. Yeah, there you go. That's much better.
All right, I'm sorry. Basically, my whole thing was I was concerned that the UFC would try to stonewall McGregor because he's demanding a lot of money. He knows what he's worth, and the UFC can't dictate to him like they do other fighters. And it's not just paying him. Now Conor McGregor is like the MMA version of Floyd Mayweather, where he's going to make a bunch of money, and whoever he's fighting is getting the biggest payday of their career. So now the UFC's got to pay two salaries, and from this point on out, anybody fighting McGregor will be getting career-high paydays to fight him. That's the reason everybody's calling out his name. It's not just because they want to be the best or have a title.
Well, what's interesting about that is that if you watched the press conference from maybe like 2 days ago, or I think it was yesterday, supposedly Alvarez is getting the same payout that he received for his previous bouts. Like, he didn't get a new contract written just for this event, which is if true, I don't know if it's true or not. And looking at the way Alvarez reacted to it, I don't think that was far from the case. That would be a huge mistake by Alvarez, because we know McGregor's going to be making millions of dollars for this fight. He made, I believe it was $3 million for his last fight against Nate Diaz. I wouldn't be surprised if it's $5 for at least for UFC 205, not including pay-per-view points and all the other contractual information that's going to be in there. But if looking at the way Alvarez responded and that kind of like said that he's not taking this fight for the money, that lets me know that he is not getting as much as a Nate Diaz did, or even a Jose Aldo did when he fought Conor McGregor, and that's very alarming to me. That's a very, if true, again, we'll see once the event goes off and once the disclosed numbers come out. But if this guy isn't getting a huge payday, man, someone on his management team deserves to get fired for that.
Yeah, you're not going to get any argument from me. That's the one thing I've actually had an issue with in MMA over boxing. In boxing, depending on who you fight, like his popularity and what he has, that impacts your bottom line. You get paid more to fight Floyd Mayweather than you get paid to fight Danny Garcia. You get paid more to fight Danny Garcia than you get to fight Robert the Ghost Guerrero, because they're different calibers with different fan bases and different paydays. Whereas MMA sometimes sticks people in these you've got a contract. We're going to pay you this flat fee. And like you said, if his management somehow didn't get him a career high payday, they dropped the ball because Nate Diaz wasn't a champion, and he got well over $1 million on two different occasions. Now you're going to be a defending champion in your first defense in their biggest show in Madison Square Garden, and all you're getting is your regularly contracted pay. I mean, the only thing I'm guessing is maybe he figures I'm going to get pay-per-view points, and if they do even a million buys, I'm going to get paid on the back end of it. But I can't imagine he's hedging all his bets on pay-per-view buys. And if he is, I guess he just really wants to fight. But I mean, he's a prize fighter. You don't do this for pride; you do this for money. That the pride and everything else is secondary.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, and at this point, he shouldn't. This is a business, man. This MMA is a business, and if he's missing out on millions of dollars, I think that is going to be a huge misstep on his point. But
Okay, let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
Let me ask you a question real quick. Wasn't the reason he came to the UFC from Bellator because he wanted to make more money? So now he's got he's got the meal ticket, he's got the cash cow, he's got MMA's Floyd Mayweather to fight him for a title, and he's getting like a priorly agreed upon salary. What sense does that make? That's why you left Bellator, so you could make more money and be a huge star. Like, that was the purpose of you leaving, and now it's not about the money. That sounds a little backwards.
Exactly. You know what? I didn't even think to think of it that way. I didn't even think of it that way. But you're 110% right. He was willing to fight Bellator and lose years on his career over money. And now he's in this situation where he's fighting the biggest fight on the biggest card in MMA history, and then he says it's not about the money. That is a huge statement there, and you're 100% right. Like that's yeah. I'm going to be interested in seeing what his payout is, and if it's not substantial, then man, I'm going to question his management team, because they should definitely be on top of that and make sure this man is getting what he's worth.
If it's not substantial and he loses, it's really going to be a step back. So you got paid regular pay to fight the biggest name in MMA. You got your regular salary, and you lost your title. Good job there. Good job there, management. Good job there, fighter.
So let's talk about that, because McGregor opened as the favorite. What are your thoughts about this fight from a technical standpoint?
Technical standpoint, like I'm an Eddie Alvarez fan. I've watched a lot of his fights. I think he's got some of the best boxing as far as like not just the punches, but the footwork, positioning, and the placement. My problem with Alvarez is that I still don't think his chin is what it used to be, and B, as good as his defense allows him to get away from some shots, but everybody who's fought him has put hands on him. Gilbert Melendez busted up his eye pretty bad. Pettis could never get that really big, really clean power shot on him. But Pettis was punishing him to the body. Pettis just has no sense of urgency. He just keeps waiting for a submission or a knockout strike to come. But when he put his foot on the gas, he was landing shots on Alvarez. He was landing a lot of them on him. And the same thing goes with Donald Cerrone. Cerrone was putting leather on him, putting shins and feet and knees on him at a very high level. So the problem is now he's facing a guy who's probably the best athlete he's fought in the UFC, the guy who's the biggest puncher in the UFC, and the guy who sets the highest pace out of anybody he's fought in the UFC. And to me, that's a recipe for disaster. A lot of people tell me RDA sets a higher pace. RDA throws more punches and he's a bigger puncher. I don't necessarily know that's true. I don't think RDA is a particularly sharp puncher, and I don't think he has as many tools and variation in how he attacks, and that's going to be the biggest difference. McGregor is going to be, I think what McGregor's going to try to do is he's going to try to work those front kicks and work that long range and be an aggressive counter puncher. He's not just going to walk in anymore. He's not going to just try and overwhelm Alvarez. He understands after that loss to Diaz what that kind of approach can cost him if he fights stupid. He's not going to be fighting stupid anymore. He's fighting to win. He's not fighting to make a point anymore. He's fighting to win. He still wants to win in spectacular fashion, but the main thing is for him to win. And he wasn't doing that before Diaz. After the loss from Diaz, kind of snapped him back to reality, and now he's willing to be a little bit more deliberate with what he's doing and be a little bit more technical and be a little bit more restrained in his aggression so that he can score points. so that he can win rounds, so that he can keep out of bad positions instead of just throwing volume in, getting taken down, and just trash talking his way until he can find a way back up. I think he's going to actually use his range, those front kicks, those snap kicks, and those side kicks, and he's going to try to take Alvarez's gas tank. And I think he's just going to keep trying to pressure Alvarez and get him to give up a wild takedown or come in a little bit too hard, and he's just going to counter him. I think that's his game every single time he fights. It's just a matter of will he stick to it, or does he decide he's going to put his power against his opponent's power, put his chin against his opponent's chin, put his volume against his opponent's volume. If he did that, Alvarez could sneak out a decision just by taking him down and working him over repeatedly. He did it to Pettis, but the one thing people forget about the difference between Pettis and McGregor is McGregor has a sense of urgency at all times. He knows when to turn it on. He will come out and throw 100 strikes around. He will throw the whole kitchen sink at you. And in my opinion, if Alvarez had a hard time holding Pettis down, I think he's going to have an equally hard time holding McGregor down, because it's not like he just controlled Pettis and took him down left and right. Pettis defended some of those takedowns. Pettis landed shots, and Pettis isn't a sharper puncher. He's not as good as in the pocket, and he doesn't react well underneath pressure. McGregor reacts well under pressure. McGregor will get into an exchange with you and win the exchange. McGregor's a sharper puncher and a sharper kicker. He might not be as powerful and as diverse, but he's sharper in his approach, and he's more scientific in his approach. I see McGregor beating him inside of 3 rounds, and if Alvarez comes out and really tries to push the issue like he did with RDA, I don't think he gets outside of a round. I think McGregor gets and walks him into a big counter after attacking him to the body a lot, cutting his legs off, and then finishing him with a big counter shot. I don't think you'll see a lot of the spinning kicks as much, only to the body. But outside of that, he's going to use his range and he's going to use his volume. And every time Alvarez tries to assert himself, he's going to rake him to the body and throw that straight left. And now he's got a jab too. That's another problem for Alvarez. Because Alvarez is going to have to get into a range. He's going to have to get in and get out of range. Since McGregor's not just walking people down wildly anymore, he's going to have to work to get into that range. He's going to have to work to get out of that range without getting hit. I don't think Alvarez is defensively disciplined enough to do it all 5 rounds. He got caught by RDA, he got caught by Melendez, he got caught by Pettis, he got caught by Cerrone, and I think McGregor, technically, physically, and strategically, is a better striker than all 3 of those guys. So the mistakes he made versus those guys, those got him hurt, those got him beat. This one is going to get him finished. And I fully expect McGregor to beat them inside of 3 rounds.
So one of the things that McGregor said during the press conference yesterday was that Alvarez is getting chinny. Chinny is the word that he used. And for those who don't really know, chinny is a term that fighters use when guys, when their chins start to fade. You know, we saw it with fighters such as Anderson Silva, for example, Fedor in the past. We've seen it with guys all the time when guys who consistently take a lot of shots and then you see them getting knocked out by lighter and lighter. Not lighter, but you see them getting knocked out, using that in quotation marks. My question is Alvarez getting to that point? Because if you think back to his first fight with Michael Chandler, you know, he was taking some shots then. He took some shots in the second fight. He took some shots against Cerrone, against Melendez. You know, he didn't take too many against Pettis, but are you concerned? Do you think Alvarez is susceptible to being knocked out by McGregor? You know, obviously Conor said he's going to do it within 1 round, but do you see this fight ending like in a TKO fashion?
Well, clearly he's more susceptible. He doesn't fight with nearly the unabashed aggression or the volume he did in Bellator before he had the loss to Chandler. I've been telling people for years, that fight with Chandler cost Michael Chandler a couple years on his career, but Michael Chandler's young. It cost Eddie Alvarez years in his career, and Eddie Alvarez is towards the middle and the end of his career. And if you look at both guys carefully, neither guy fights like they used to fight after that second fight. Both guys, Eddie Alvarez used to get dragged into brawls, and he'd exchange, and he'd win a lot of those exchanges. It's harder to drag Eddie Alvarez into a brawl now because Eddie Alvarez knows while he can still dish out the punishment, he can't take it the way he used to. When he fought Gilbert Melendez busted him up. Melendez was hurting him. Cerrone was walking him down. I haven't seen many fights where Eddie Alvarez was fighting a guy who was fighting in his weight class and getting walked down and pushed around by another fighter. You didn't see that before the Michael Chandler fight. That second fight, Chandler was putting hands on, really sharp and really mobile, and really use all his tools because he doesn't have the luxury of leaning on a chin or leaning on his ability to recover. So I understand what McGregor's saying, and McGregor's 100% right. Watch how Eddie Alvarez fought in Bellator. Watch how he fought in that first Chandler fight. Watch how he fought in the second Chandler fight, and watch how he fought since he's been in the UFC. He has changed up dramatically because he understands he just can't take the punishment he used to. And to be quite honest, he hasn't fought a big puncher in the UFC. Donald Cerrone's not a big puncher. He's a big kicker, but he's not really a big puncher. Most of his damage is done with knees and kicks. Melendez isn't a big puncher. Melendez didn't even come close to knocking out Diego Sanchez, and Melendez had him rocked and hurt on multiple occasions. Anthony Pettis didn't land that much, but when he landed on him, he made Alvarez step back. He made Alvarez slow down. And even when Ardiki fought Raphael dos Anjos hurt him. He couldn't finish him. He couldn't land that finishing shot, but he hurt Alvarez. And Alvarez just was able to return fire and hurt him back and then close the show. I haven't seen McGregor really just knocked around, and he's faced the biggest punchers in the division. He faced Aldo. Aldo's a bigger puncher than Alvarez. He faced Mendez. Mendez is a bigger puncher than Alvarez. So we don't have to worry about McGregor's chin. We have to worry about Alvarez, and I think the fight's going to end in a TKO fashion when Alvarez slows down. And in my opinion, his approach, that darting in and darting out on angles, using the jabs, the fakes, the side steps, and the positioning, that takes a lot of energy. The minute he slows the step, that's when McGregor's going to close the show. And the show will be closed. I can almost guarantee you that. Like I said, I don't see it going more than 3 rounds. And if it does, I'll be shocked. I'll be impressed by Alvarez, and I'm an Alvarez fan. But I don't think it goes more than 3 rounds.
And see, and I can agree with you on that because looking back to the second fight against he lost that one, but this one, I think this one is going to be tough. And I'm interested in seeing how Alvarez plans on taking the fight. Because he talks about wrestling Conor McGregor down to the ground, and that's all well and good. But is he just going to rush out there and try to score a takedown against a fresh Conor McGregor? I think that's going to be tough. We've seen him be able to thwart takedowns in the past, and I wouldn't be surprised if his takedown defense has gotten better since the fight against Chad Mendez. So is he going to try to press him against the cage and try to wear him down that way through clinch? Because remember, McGregor's going to be the bigger man. So, or at least height-wise, he'll be the bigger man. Alvarez definitely is a heavier lightweight. So I wonder what his strategy will be to control the range and control that pace in a way that causes McGregor to lose his gas tank, which is something that Alvarez keeps pointing at. He says that McGregor can't fight 25 minutes. Okay, no problem. I understand that. But what is his plan to cut into that 25-minute or less than gas tank that he keeps talking about?
Can I point out one thing, Eddie Alvarez? Eddie Alvarez constantly says that McGregor can't go 5 rounds, and he got beat up, and he turned over and he quit. But I'm not sure about my memory, but when he fought Michael Chandler, didn't he end up gassing out? It might have gone longer, but didn't he gas out and end up getting submitted in the same similar way?
No, he got knocked out. Or wait, are you talking about Chandler knocked him out.
Really? I could have sworn he finished him and he tapped out.
Let me look. Keep talking about that real quick. Yeah, I believe
if I that he tapped out to a submission, if I recall correctly.
Let me check. Let me check 1 second. Let me ask you a question while we're looking at that. The invitation that comes over for Google Hangouts, where do you see that when I send that to you?
Usually just pops up on the screen, to be honest.
Usually just pops up on your screen? Okay, because I'm trying to get our interview in, and he says he doesn't see it. But yes, you're right. When Michael Chandler defeated him in 2011, he did get submitted by rear naked choke.
Yeah, he got tired, and he got tired. He got beat up, and he rolled over and gave him his back. So he's accusing Conor of doing the same thing, except Nate Diaz is a more accomplished fighter than Chandler is, and Conor wasn't prepared for him like Eddie Alvarez was prepared for Chandler. So he's saying this thing like he's immune to this sort of thing. And the biggest problem for Eddie isn't going to even be Conor's power. It's going to be the sharpness of his strikes. He places them very well, and that footwork. Conor's very good with his long stance, and that kind of quarter step in, quarter step out. He's easy to get in and land the shots, and he's very good at faking faking with his footwork to draw out a response and then to counter off that. That's what he did with Aldo. Aldo saw him bouncing. He jumped in, jumped back a quarter step, and when Aldo threw the hook, he just countered him. He walked right into it. He baited him with his footwork. This is going to be the first time Eddie Alvarez won't have a huge footwork advantage over somebody. McGregor can fight in the pocket. He can fight at range. He can fight off the back foot. He can circle. He can dart in to dart out. So that advantage no longer exists for Eddie Alvarez. What's he going to do against a guy who's a bigger hitter, a stronger guy with a better chin, who can match his movement and match his pace, and has kept the movement and pace against superior athletes as well? That's the question Eddie Alvarez has to answer.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with you on that. So there's so much more we can talk about on this card here. What about the current co-main event where you have Stephen Thompson challenging for the welterweight title? What are your first thoughts on this fight?
It's probably one of the best fights you could have in the welterweight division. The first thing I keep thinking is that if the fight stays at range, the fight will not stay at range. I don't care what Tyron Woodley tells you. I don't care what his coaches tell you. There's no way he takes that fight and fights at range versus Stephen Thompson any more than he has to. If he's forced to fight in it, he's going to learn how to navigate that, work counters, and be defensively sound. If he doesn't want extended exchanges, extended time, fighting at range with Stephen Thompson, it's a no-win proposition. Thompson's timing, his positioning, his accuracy, and his pattern recognition is light years ahead of Woodley's in that area. So Woodley doesn't want that. Woodley's going to try to use his athleticism, try to close on him, try to rough him up, try to beat him up. I'm not convinced that Woodley's going to try a lot for takedowns because takedowns take a lot of energy, and if you don't get them, you're usually getting punished on the way to trying to attempt those. And if you can't hold the guy down, you just use a huge burst of energy just for that guy to get back up and continue to put hands on him. So I don't think Woodley's going to continue to do that because Woodley's not a takedown machine. Woodley's not a control machine. I've seen lesser grapplers stuff his shot, get up from the shot, and make him work very hard to get a clean takedown. So I think he's going to be having some problems. I think Thompson presents a lot of problems across the board for him. So it's a very good fight. It should end by knockout. Woodley's not known for going 5 rounds, not 5 hard rounds. And I think Thompson actually has the advantage in cardio and has the advantage as far as the ways he can win the fight. I actually think he's got more to offer than Woodley in a lot of ways. Woodley wins by knockout, or he essentially just out-athletes you and proves the decision. This time he won't be clearly the better athlete, and this time he won't be clearly the better striker. And he won't have that huge advantage he has in 90% of the fights he goes into. And I think that's what's going to make the difference. But I'm interested to see how Tyron Woodley approaches a guy who fights in a style that nobody else fights in, and somebody who is competent in the areas of MMA that Thompson is. Because he's no longer just a karate guy. He can defend takedowns, defend thugs. He can take you down. He can fight you in the clinch. He can box a little bit. Like, he presents problems in a lot of different ways. I don't know who's favored against him in division. I thought Rory McDonald would be the one to beat him. And if Rory McDonald didn't do it, I'm not betting on anybody else.
So, the last time I can think of when Tyron Woodley went out to actually take a guy down and control him throughout the fight was when he defeated Paul Daly. Because a lot of people were thinking that Paul was going to go in there and knock Woodley out, and definitely he has the power to kind of disconnect anyone from consciousness. I'm talking about Paul Daly. But Woodley was able to score takedowns and just basically control them for those 3 rounds, I believe it was. I don't know if Woodley's going to be able to use that same type of takedown technique to get Thompson down to the ground, because everyone's pointing to the Johnny Hendricks fight as, Stephen Thompson can defend a takedown and he can control that position. I mean, he wasn't fighting the same Johnny Hendricks that was blowing guys away. He wasn't fighting the same Johnny Hendricks that fought Robbie Lawler the first time around. So I'm wondering if he is going to purposely implement that type of game to score those takedowns, because he hasn't done it in quite a while. So if he does that, will he be able to do enough to get the win? But then you brought up some great questions there. He doesn't fight for 25 minutes. And how is he going to limit that range early to get into position to score that takedown? I think that those are some very valid questions and valid concerns that Woodley should have coming into this fight.
Yeah, Woodley's a smart guy, so I figure he's got to have some kind of game plan or some kind of approach. My question is, what exactly is it? Because he hasn't faced a guy with as much range and attack. Paul Daly is a dynamic striker, but he's not a hard guy to find. Defensively, he's not hard to hit. I've seen guys like Scott Smith land on him. He's not a hard guy to hit. He's just crisp on his counters, crisp on his attacks, and he has such heavy hands that essentially guys refuse to attack because they're afraid of what's coming back at them. They understand what's coming back at them, so they don't really open up against him. So my whole thing against fighting a guy like that, it's easier to get in his space with his stance. The way Daly fights, Daly likes to approach guys. He likes to stay at a certain range, and sometimes he counters. A lot of times he likes to walk guys down and blow them out. Thompson isn't that stationary. Thompson moves, and he's got a bladed stance that allows him to close and extend distance very well. And unlike the Thompsons who got beat up by Matt Brown, this one's been working with Chris Weidman. This guy's been working with top wrestlers in the nation and top wrestlers in the world, preparing himself because he knows nobody wants to stand with him. Nobody wants to stand with him. They'll stand with him in spots, but these guys don't really want to exchange with him. They don't really want to fight at range with him. So he knows what they're going to go do. So he's addressed that issue. And the best thing about it is even if Woodley gets him down, Woodley's not a submission guy. Woodley might try and ground and pound you, but he's not a submission guy. And people can tell me he's worked on a submission, he's training him, but you don't become a submission guy overnight. There's guys who are legitimate, good fighters in MMA who don't get submissions left and right. So you're going to tell me that now Tyron Woodley's going to be fitting somebody with an armbar or rear naked choke or guillotine? I don't think that's likely to happen. The only place that Woodley's a threat in is in regards to his athleticism and his power. Technically on the feet, I don't think he's really a consistent threat to Thompson. He might get to him because of the combination of his technique and his physical abilities, but technically he's not really a threat. Wrestling's an area where he's probably superior, but he's not a guy who just gets clean takedowns on everybody. When he fought Daly, he had to fight for some of those takedowns. It wasn't like he just put Daly on his butt every single time without any resistance. That didn't happen. And he didn't control Daly easily. He wasn't passing his guard and just pounding him into oblivion. He was stuck in his guard. He was struggling to get shots through. He was struggling to get out of his guard. He was struggling to get in better positions. And he got tired of that fight, too. Late in that fight, Daly was putting some things on him. Now, I don't think Daly did enough to win the fight, clearly. But Daly had his moments in that fight. And Daly's not the wrestler or the defensive or mobile fighter that Thompson is. I'm not saying that Thompson is guaranteed to win this fight, but it's very hard for me, anybody to come up with an argument that tells me that Woodley's going to win it. Like, you can tell me he can knock him out, but how's he going to knock him out? What's he going to do to knock him down? How's he going to chop out his gas tank? How's he going to break him down? Explain it to me, because based on what I've seen, there shouldn't be any way that Woodley wins this fight outside of him just out-athleting Thompson and overwhelming him with power and aggression. But that's his only way to win, and if Thompson isn't prepared for that, then Thompson and his team have done themselves a grave injustice.
So, yeah, definitely. So I've been thinking about this fight a lot lately because I listened to Tyron Woodley's interview on the MMA Hour this past Monday, and I understand why people have their issues with him. I get it. He's getting booed left and right. People are. There's commentary about him not being a real champion, not defending the belt. The same thing Conor McGregor hasn't done. I'd like to put that out there, et cetera, et cetera. But I get why people are upset with him. I get that. But listening to him talk, I definitely believe he has the opportunity to be probably the first real crossover African-American MMA star, because he has, if you don't know, he's from Ferguson, Missouri, which obviously is probably one of the most interesting places in the country right now, obviously, because of all the situation that has gone down since Mike Brown 2 years ago. So he's from that area, and he's from poverty. He's an individual who, at one point in time, could be stereotyped to represent everything that is wrong with quote-unquote urban America, just because he's been through it. He's from that poverty. And to see him pull himself up through wrestling, through collegiate wrestling, into the UFC, and reach this champion level, I believe he does have the opportunity to be that crossover star that other fighters has failed. Quentin Rampage failed at it. Rashad Evans failed at it. John Jones is failing at it. Demetrius Johnson isn't necessarily translating. Like there aren't guys. The African American community isn't interested in MMA as much as they are in boxing because they don't have that individual that they can latch onto and say, that's my guy. I believe Tyron Woodley could be that, and I didn't think so much listening to him beforehand, but listening to him on Speak to Ariel on Monday, talking about the history of the sport, talking about why he believes fighters should respect their legacies, and the reason why he asked to fight Nick Diaz or GSP rather than fight Stephen Thompson. He has all of this stuff laid out perfectly in his head. So listening to that, I do want to see him win based off of that, because I want to see if he can be that individual that gets my friends and my family interested in mixed martial arts, because they have someone that they can point to and say, oh yeah, I want to see that guy fight. So yeah, on that accord, I would like to see him win on at UFC 205. I'm not sure if he's going to. What are your thoughts about that, Schwan? Do you have anything to add to that?
I actually think, I don't know that he'll be the guy, but I a lot of people only know Tyron in his interviews. Like, I know people who know him, like, not kind of know him, not sort of know him. Like, they really spent time with him. They really chopped it up with him. They really know his perspective on things. And the thing that made Tyron different than most MMA fighters, and I've said this before, he's a professional. The reason he's in this spot is because he's a professional. He made weight. He prepared himself. He showed some patience and self-control instead of being emotional and wanting to get out there and fight for the fans and wanted to prove a point. He had a game plan and he implemented. He took an educated risk and it panned out for him. And unlike other MMA fighters who just want to fight and they don't want to talk to people and they don't want to express their point of view and they don't want to share what they think and their perspective on issues and topics in themselves, he made it a point to open himself up. The thing is, most people don't really care about what he has to say. That's why they're so shocked and they're booing now. Anybody who's listened to any Tyron Woodley interview, or anybody who knows somebody who knows him, knows that he's always had this stance when it comes to MMA. It is a business. It's a profession. He's going to carry himself in a business-like, professional manner and try to expand his brand, expand his bank account, create a legacy for himself, and create some security for his wife and his children. He has said this since day one, and I don't understand how anybody who's ever listened to an interview doesn't know this. Like, all these guys are hating because he has a title. They wouldn't hate him if he didn't have a title. He has a title, and that's why he's getting all this attention. He's saying the same stuff he said for years. So I actually think he's going to be the guy he could be the guy who makes that crossover star, or he might be the guy who kind of opens the floodgate and creates the path for the guy who's going to be the big star. Like same thing, they had Arnold Palmer. Arnold Palmer wasn't the biggest name. He wasn't the biggest star in a sense. He was the guy who created the opportunity. He created the launching pad for guys like Tiger and guys like, I can't forget the other guy. It's slipping my mind right now. But he's the one who set those guys up. And Tyron Woodley is actually a fighter who's not playing a character or playing a caricature or playing up certain aspects and certain angles. I hate to say that some fighters are taking on, whether it's black or white. Everybody has little shtick. Tyron Woodley kind of just shoots you straight. He just tells you what he thinks. He tells you how he feels. And people respect that authenticity because he never veers from it. He's never trying to be hood. He's never trying to be, I'm a warrior. I would do this for free. He's never tried to be a party guy. He's just like, I'm a guy who wants to compete. I'm a guy who wants to win. I'm a guy who wants to take care of my family. I'm a guy who wants to make a name for himself and have a career for himself after the sport. What he's always said is what he's always done. He stayed true to that. And if he continues to do that, he's going to have fans. He's going to have some longevity in his career outside of MMA. He already does. I mean, he's been in movies. He had I told everybody now, we're watching Straight Outta Compton. Hey, that's the UFC welterweight champion. What's he doing in Straight Outta Compton? He asked too. He's got other irons in the fire. He's not defined by MMA. MMA is a competition to him. It's something that he does. It's not who he is and what he's about. It's what he's about, like where he loses himself in. So I think Tyron Woodley sets a good example for any fighter of any race. And I don't know that he's going to be that star. I don't know that he's charismatic enough. I'm not saying he's not. I just don't know that he is. But he might be the guy who sets that bar, who opens up that pathway, because he's been the best overall representation as a fighter that I've seen. He hasn't been caught in anything embarrassing, any sort of messy MMA breakups with his gym or sort of drama. He always keeps it professional. He always keeps it direct. He always speaks clearly. And he always presents himself in a way that he finds appealing. Not that appeals to any other demographic. He's doing himself. And that's the main secret to being successful on any level, just being genuine. And he's done that. And I think a lot of fighters coming up are going to follow his lead and start looking for money fights and start planning out their moves a little bit more strategically and start looking for avenues to solidify their presence in MMA outside of just being a fighter. Like, use this opportunity to build something more. If you notice, a lot of fighters are starting to follow what Tyron Woodley's saying now. A lot of guys didn't do it before, but now guys are starting to trying to pick their shots and try to say, I'm going to sit out and I'm not doing this and I'm not doing that because I understand the risk of this career and what I need to do to maximize my earning potential and my longevity and my health moving forward. So I think he's already evoked the change. I don't know that he's going to be the guy who's that breakout star, though. I just don't know that. But it'd be nice if he was. He's a good representation of a person who's being genuine and a person who's about business and a person who understands the difference between, business, fun, and being a family guy and being a guy who's living a lifestyle that isn't very kind to people who have families.
Man, that's awesome. That's some good insight there, and I definitely appreciate that. We're at an interesting time in the sport where that is becoming a bigger and bigger point in what makes a fighter a star as opposed to someone who is quote unquote just a fighter. So yeah, it will be interesting to see what happens with Tyron Woodley and what happens after UFC 205. So let's we're only 2 fights in on this card too. So let's talk about the next one, which is another title bout between Karolina Kowalkiewicz and Joanna Jędrzejczyk. I think this is going to be a great fight. It's a great fight for European competitors because it's 2 undefeated Polish women, which I hope is something that's not lost as we promote this fight. When Joanna was introduced at the press conference, she got a pretty good cheer. One that rivaled Chris Weidman and Frankie Edgar. So people are aware of who she is, and she is definitely a growing star in the sport. I'm looking forward to this bout. I think Jędrzejczyk takes it. I think just because she's such a violent volume striker. That's something that a lot of people. I'm gonna coin that term. There's volume strikers, there's violent strikers, and then she's going to be the first one that I'm going to call a violent volume striker, and that's someone who continually, the 4th, 5th round, is continuously putting it on you. We saw that when she fought Claudia Gadelha a few months back, when it's the 4th and 5th round and she's winning 10-8s, not because she's knocking someone down, but because she's just beating the brakes off of them. So talk to me about that fight there. Do you see Jędrzejczyk keeping her title and continuing to submit herself as possibly the best woman on the UFC roster, or are we sleeping on Kowalkiewicz and what she may be able to do?
Well, first of all, Joanna's been the best woman on the roster for quite a while now. I'm just gonna keep this short. I never believed in the hype of Ronda Rousey. I saw her for what it was. I appreciate what she did. She was talented. She's tough, but she wasn't a better fighter than Joanna from day one. They were both in the UFC. She just wasn't a better fighter. Sorry. And same thing with Holm. I knew that too. But the reason I don't think Joanna loses her title is because she has, once again, it comes down to variation. Karolina has pretty much one area she's really super strong, and that's the clinch. She'll walk through fire to get to you. Once she gets her hands on you, she's going to manipulate you. She's going to position you. She's going to lay on you, put her body on you, wear you down, and then she's going to start chopping you up with short shots, elbows, punches to the body, punches in the face. But outside of that clinch range, she's not much of a threat. Karolina's supposed to be somewhat of a very high-class striker. She's competed at a very high level. Rose Namajunas isn't a tenured striker as far as competing at a world-class level or a very high-class level. But Rose Namajunas essentially was outboxing her with good footwork and a steady jab. The only reason she lost that fight is because she was unable to maintain the distance necessary to get that jab off and to pivot out, to angle in, to angle out. She got caught up in a clinch fight, because she couldn't control Karolina in the clinch. She couldn't get that quick takedown, so she allowed Karolina to get her hands on her, get control of the clinch, and essentially walk her down and chop her up. The thing about Joanna's an all-round striker. She could fight in the clinch. We saw against Claudia, she's defending takedowns, she's grappling with her, she's pushing back and forth, she's landing short knees, she's landing short uppercuts, she's landing short hooks. We've seen her at range and mid range. She's got that jab. When she has a jab going, her jab is 90% of the fighters in the UFC don't have the footwork or the defensive awareness to get past her jab. Carolina is no different. Her jab is much better than Namajunas' jab. Her follow-up offense off of the jab is much better than Namajunas' offense off the jab, and her power is better. And then when it gets to long range, once again, it's the same issue. She's got more variation, and she's got more power, and she can keep her pace longer than anybody else in the division. So my question is, if Carolina enforce it in the range she wants it to, she can have success. But the thing is, she's not going to overwhelm Joanna in the clinch. She's not going to run her over. She might be better than her, but she's not that much better than her. Whereas the advantages Carolina has in mid-range, the advantages Joanna has in mid-range and long range are dramatically. When it comes to long range, Carolina's not messing with it. Because of mid-range, Carolina can't compete with her. But Joanna can compete with Carolina in her best range. Carolina cannot compete with Joanna in her best ranges. And the other fact is, we've seen what happens to Joanna when somebody puts her in the back spot. Somebody takes her down. Somebody rocks her in the first round, and she rocks the first 2 rounds. We've seen her have to come back and have to turn on the jet, turn on the volume, and turn on the viciousness for 3 straight rounds to keep her title. We've seen her have to dig herself out of a hole. We've seen her have to fight girls who don't go away after the first couple shots. We've seen her have to fight girls who got size and strength advantage over her. We know what's going to happen when someone pushes back against her. Nobody really knows what Carolina's going to do if somebody doesn't concede to her when she gets her hands on it. And when you've never had that pushback in this environment, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know how that person's going to react. I know what Joanna's going to do when it gets tough. Carolina's going to do when it gets tough, because nobody's had the discipline to stick to a game plan long enough to expose the holes over the length of a fight. And that's why they've gotten beaten by her. Joanna has the toughness, the physicality, and the athleticism to do everything the road Namajunas did on the field and more. But she's got that mean streak, and she's got the power to end it. I don't think she ends it, but I think it's similar to the Claudia Gadelha fight. She might lose a round or two, but when she turns it on and starts moving her feet and starts pivoting, working in and working out behind the jab, it's over. And it's only going to be difficult if she makes it difficult. If she goes up there trying to be slick right away and putting volume, putting her shot together, it'll be an easy fight. If she decides she's going to come out flat-footed and let Carolina get her shot in, get her chance to win the fight, then it becomes competitive. But she could have made that. She could make that fight easy, just like she could have made the Claudia fight easy. She came out and decided to fight in my opinion, in an unintelligent manner, and the opportunity she had to win the fight. Once she started getting on her toes, once she started getting her jab, once she started using that counter hook, pivoting, from that point on, it was all downhill. When she just came right out trying to assert herself, taken down, drop, taken down, drop, beat up, pushed around, taken down. So it depends on how she wants to do. She's almost like Golovkin in the case, but she makes fights more difficult than they have to be, and it allows her opponent to put work in. But I'm going to go with Joanna. I think she's a better athlete. I think she's the most diverse striker. And as far as what I've seen from her, I think she's the girl who I know what to expect when she gets in a tough fight. I know what to expect when she gets pushed in MMA. It's one thing to do it in kickboxing, one thing to do it in boxing, one thing to do it in MMA, and I've seen Joanna do it in MMA repeatedly. I don't know what she's going to do when it gets fit.
So let me ask you this then. Women's strawweight, I think it's a deep division. It's a dangerous division. And I think that Joanna has the ability to kind of reign over that one the same way Rousey did for an extended period of time. Does she have what it takes? I'm talking about from a business side of it, like a personality side, to become a major star. I think she's headed in the right direction. I think she's doing a lot of the right things. But how high is her ceiling outside of the cage?
I think she really has a high ceiling. And I know this is going to sound sexist, and everybody's going to say, why you got to bring looks into it? But think about the really big stars in any sport, combat or otherwise. They have some sort of appeal to the opposite sex. Peyton Manning might not be the best looking person to some people, but he appeals to a lot of women. Tom Brady, Oscar De La Hoya. Let's just be honest about this, and not bring sexism into it. I mean, it's an aspect of sexism. I get it, but it's on equal sides. If you're a better looking person with a better looking image, opportunities. Sorry, it's the truth. Ask Sarah Kaufman. There's a reason she didn't get to fight Miesha Tate, and Ronda Rousey got to jump right in there. And it's not because Ronda Rousey is the more accomplished fighter at this point. Because it was 2 attractive girls who were going to be fighting and grappling in multiple positions. Sorry, it's true. Nobody wants to admit it. I'm gonna say it. Joanna is actually an attractive young lady. She has a personality. She has some sort of energy about her. She's not be on the fake positivity trip. She knows how to play the game. She has a certain amount of Conor McGregor in her, in that she'll challenge people. She has answers that she's gonna pull. She says the things that fans want to hear. Fans don't want to hear, well, we're all sisters and I'm gonna go out there and do my best and give my best. They want to hear that you're gonna walk through this shit, that you're gonna take this chick out, that she's gonna pay for everything she said until you're gonna break her jaw so she won't be able to talk anymore fast. She knows how to play the game. She knows how to appeal to multiple demographics on multiple levels. As a fighter, as a woman, this is a human being. She has interest. She has a shoe fetish, but not like a high heel shoe fetish that I know of. Fetish. How many dudes can relate to that? How many dudes can relate to somebody spending all their money having the freshest kick? A ton of guys can relate to that. Just like a ton of guys can relate to a girl or a person who's the baddest person in their weight division in the world. She actually, I think, is a more natural speaker and natural, I guess, character as far as her interaction with people than Ronda Rousey is. I think Ronda Rousey had to be handled a lot. Conor McGregor doesn't have to be handled. He knows how to adjust. He knows how to play to the crowd. He knows how to get reaction. I don't know that Ronda knows how to do that. I think a lot of people have to kind of keep her out of certain situations so she didn't create opportunities to get herself in trouble. Holly Holm isn't that type of person. Joanna's, in my opinion, been the biggest star the UFC has created as a woman since she's come in because she created her own buzz. Ronda had a huge buzz coming out. She's an Olympic athlete. She's this, she's that. Joanna comes from kickboxing. Nobody cares about kickboxing. Kickboxing isn't popular, and yet she's turned herself into one of the biggest draws in the UFC. One of the people that everybody wants to talk to. Everybody wants to hear what she has to say. Everybody wants to see at the weigh-in, and everybody wants to see fight. And she did that on her own. She didn't have Olympics behind her. She didn't have another organization pushing her to the forefront. She didn't have Dana White making a whole division just for her. She wasn't even supposed to be a star in the division. She came in and carved out her own niche and went through every single body put in front of her to earn her position. So in a sense, she's already better than Ronda Rousey and better than Holly Holm and better than the majority of women in her division too, because she created her own spot. Nobody knew who she was really before. Who was really talking about her? I heard about Michelle Watterson. I even heard about Paige Van Zandt. I heard about the girls in the Tough House. Nobody was really talking about Joanna before she came in and put a stamp on people and started winning fights and winning titles. That's when she became a star. So she created her own star. So I think she has a very high ceiling because she's just getting started. People are just now starting to pay attention, and people are just realizing that the strawweight division is much better across the board than the bantamweight division. It's more competitive, and the fact that she has a more competitive division with bigger stars in her division just lends itself to her star power. If she would have been fighting Rose Namajunas in New York this time, it would have been a much huger fight since Namajunas is a much bigger personality with a much bigger fan base. But as it stands, she's with Carolina, but Carolina got the A side of this fight is going to be Joanna. She's going to be the star of the fight. She just needs maybe a help from a bigger name to help push her over that edge where she goes from MMA star to superstar. And I don't think Carolina's the girl to do it, but this is a good platform. And then she puts on an impressive fight, as she always does. People will be talking about her when it comes to the fight. When she had her defense against Claudia, people were talking about that fight. They were talking about UFC 200. UFC 200, no fight on the card was as good as the Claudia Joanna rematch. No fight that week, no fight that month was as good as that fight. And people were talking about that for the next 2-3 weeks. Best fight in MMA almost this year, maybe fight of the year. So all she's got to do is do what she always does, and she has a platform in the biggest city on the biggest stage in front of everybody. I do think for her to really break that mold, she's going to have somebody who draws as much eyes as her, like a Rose Namajunas. She fights Rose Namajunas, going to put everything behind because there's two people who have star potential. And I don't think Carolina really does.
It's funny that you said that because when I first looked at the women's strawweight division, I thought that Claudia was going to be that woman. I thought she was going to be the one. I thought she was going to be the one that dominated that that division, and it just didn't happen. So
I never thought that. I thought she had potential. I thought she could compete in it because she's athletic, she's big, strong, she has a good camp. but I always thought she was a little bit too one-dimensional, and I was always concerned about her inability to fight hard rounds. Like when she can dominate, she can fight hard, but even when she's dominating, she gets tired. It seems like a lot of certain types of female fighters get tired really quick, and that's a big issue. No matter how good you are, if I know that after a round and a half, your production, your effort, and your toughness is gonna fall, not just recede a little bit, literally fall off a cliff. All I gotta do is make it through those first that round and a half or first two rounds, and I know that you're done. And that's always been the case with her. I've never been impressed with her ability to push hard, and that's always a big issue in any sport. If you can't consistently push hard, I'm always gonna have some doubt as far how far you can go and who you're gonna be in division or in that sport. And she's always had that hole in her game. She's always had it, and she's kind of one-dimensional too. So I never thought that about her. To be quite honest, when I saw Joanna, I thought that's going to be the future of the division. I wasn't really impressed with a whole lot of girls in the house outside of Nama Yunus. So those two are the people I thought. Maybe Michelle Watterson too would be three people I think would reign over the division in strawweight.
So yeah, I mean, we had that fight, so and we're still not even halfway through UFC 205. I mean, let's just glance over the rest of the card. Man, we have Chris Weidman, Yoel Romero, Khabib Nurmagomedov, and Michael Johnson. That fight just got added, I think today or yesterday. We have Frankie Edgar, Jeremy Stevens, Kelvin Gastelum, Donald Cerrone. We have Rashad Evans, Tim Kennedy, Miesha Tate, Raquel Pennington.
We have people are sleeping on that one.
With the Miesha Tate and Raquel Pennington fight, yeah, I think a lot of people are sleeping on that fight. Cause that one's going to be. This is going to remind me a lot of like that Julie Kedzie fight that Miesha Tate had a couple years back, yes, where it was just ugly, but it was like crazy tough. Yes. When I first saw that fight announced, that's what it kind of reminded me of.
They're not doing her any favors. They must not like Miesha Tate because all they do is give her kilos. They must hate her.
They're not giving her any easy outs. Then we got Thiago Alves, who I don't understand. Thiago Alves going to make 55 when this man almost couldn't make 70 consistently. So I mean, yeah, he started working with Mike Dolce and all that, but he was struggling to make weight then. So how is he going to get down to 55? I think that's the biggest part of that story that people really aren't talking about. But he's fighting Jim Miller, which is not an easy fight to welcome you to the lightweight division at all. So we still have that. We have Liz Carmouche and Caitlin Chookagian, which is another tough and dirty fight. We got Rafael Natal and Tim Bosch. We got Bilal Muhammad and Lyman Good. And this card, when you listen to that top to bottom, is this going to be the best card of 2016?
I don't see how if everything stays the way it is now, it'll be the best card, because you know how MMA is with injuries. If the card stays together, it'll be the best card from the UFC's produced, probably might be ever, because these are all legitimate, important fights. All these guys are either up and comers or guys with rank who have a high position, who are fighting each other, jockeying for title shots or higher positions, and it's good matchmaking. It's good technical questions in each fight. Even the fights I believe there's a favorite in, and there's no doubt that person's going to win. There's still ways for the other guy to win. There's still interesting talking points for both people, and that's not always the case in every card they have. Not in even their main events, much less all the way down to their Fight Pass prelim fights. Every single fight is competitive. Regardless of my personal view on it, every single fight on a strategical and technical level is very competitive.
I mean, you have 13 fights and 13 former or current champions.
Yeah, on this card. On a prelim. How do you figure that?
Yeah. When's the last time he's been on a prelim? Like, I didn't even think. Man, when is the last time Frankie Edgar has been on a preliminary fight?
Exactly. Frankie must really want to fight on this card to be on a prelim for the Madison Square. He must really want to be in Madison Square Garden, because I don't know too many former champions who are like, yeah, I'm going to be. I mean, you had Lorenz Larkin complaining he's on a Fight Pass. Frankie Edgar is on a damn prelim. Frankie Edgar. I mean, he may not be a huge outside superstar, but his name carries some weight in MMA, and he wants to be on this card so bad they're putting him on a prelim.
Man, the last time he's been on a I'm saying on a preliminary fight. The last time was the Ultimate Fighter Finale 10, and this wasn't even really a preliminary fight. It was still a main card fight, but this is I want to call it like a minor card where he fought Matt Veach. That was in 2009.
Yeah.
Other than that, he's been in the main event of a numbered pay-per-view, or the main event on 2 fight nights. Yep, when he defeated Cub Swanson and Uriah Faber last year, 2014 and 2015. Yeah.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yeah, you got people jockeying to be on this card just because they want to be a part of history. I'm assuming they think there's going to be some kind of financial benefit to that, because I get being part of history, but like I said, fighters, I hope that you're thinking about how this is going to affect your bottom line when you're fighting for a place on this card.
When you look at it, I mean, there's I'm just going off of what is understood as like their last contract. I believe that. Well, let me see. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 8, 9. 9 of these fighters may get points, pay-per-view points as well. So even if they're on the card, they get points off of the pay-per-view buys. So that, I mean, yeah, it is a good business decision to be on this card regardless of the fact. But man, I cannot wait until we see the disclosed paydays after UFC 205. I think we're going to see some interesting numbers.
I hope so. I mean, I like I said this last week. Fighters like regular people. If you have a job or a career that you went to college for and doesn't pay, I can't feel sorry for you, because you're doing what you want. That's doing what you want is a reward in itself. Following your dream is a reward in itself. So if you're not getting the money you want, then you might have to do what the rest of us do when we can't follow our dreams, or when our dreams don't pay the bills and work real jobs. But that doesn't mean I don't want to see fighters get paid. I just don't have that, oh, it's so unfair. I know teachers who don't get paid very good money. I know people who take care of elderly people who get paid crap money. I feel bad for them. They're doing something that, I'm not saying fighting's not important, but taking care of someone's mom or grandma or a mentally challenged child is a little bit more important, and they're not getting paid. They have a legitimate gripe because they're doing something that takes a lot and demands a lot of them, and they're not getting paid or appreciated either. They don't get points for that either. So I want to see fighters get paid, but I'm not one of the people who's so out of touch with real life that I don't understand there's people who do real things who aren't getting paid too. I want to see them get paid.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that. So we're sitting here and we're talking about UFC 205 heavily, talking about this event, which it is a major event. But we have a big fight card. This is not a big fight card, but some important fights going down this weekend when John Lineker and John Dodson fight at UFC Fight Night 95. I think that's the right number. I'm losing count. I believe that's the right number. Talk to me about that, man, because when I look at this fight, I was reading a pretty interesting preview breakdown earlier today where they picked Lineker winning by third round TKO, and I'm not sure if I totally agree with that. I get their point, but I think come third, I'm interested in seeing what type of gas tank Lineker has in the third and fourth round. I think Dodson has he has fantastic footwork to get into a prime position to strike and move out of the way. So I'm interested in seeing if that's something that goes down, or if this fight does end early, if it's prone to being a Lineker victory. Because don't forget, Dodson can throw some heat too. So talk to me about this fight. Who do you see coming out with the victory when we see Dodson and Lineker get into the cage on Saturday?
Dodson has the same problem that Anthony Pettis has. It's never a matter of actual huge hole in skill or a huge hole in athleticism. He has no sense of urgency, and he never fights a hard 3 rounds. He never fights a hard 5 rounds. He has the skill set and the physical attributes to essentially make every single fight he's in easy, and for some reason he is determined to make them difficult by doing nothing. He'll have fights where he'll just put a 5-punch combination. Somebody who has somebody reeling across, flying all across. You clearly see the advantages in explosiveness and power and strength and dynamic ability, and then he just won't do anything. He'll just stare. He'll just run around. He'll just take someone down and hold them in position. He'll just let somebody hold him against the cage. And I understand some of these fighters are skilled fighters, they're talented, and they're not just letting anybody do something to him. But Dodson is is a beyond an A+ athlete. That dude is fast for the I forgot the division. The what is it? Featherweight, flyweight division.
He was
He's
in
fast for
flyweight
the
division.
flyweight division. He
Yeah,
is
this is a
fast.
bantamweight division fight now.
Yeah, he's fast for flyweights. Flyweights aren't as fast as John Dodson is. They don't have his first step. If you had to compare, it's like Allen Iverson's first step. Nobody can keep up with it. The difference is Allen Iverson keeps pouring it on you and wears you down and breaks you, and John Dodson bursts of brilliant athleticism and technique, and then he will do nothing. He will do nothing. He won't make an adjustment. He will fight with urgency. And it's not just offensively, defensively, he starts doing nothing too. So then guys can start chipping away at him and beating him up. And he's hanging in there and he's not getting submitted, but he's clearly getting outworked, and it's happened. It happened in the first fight with Johnson. He had him rocked. He was beating him around. Was hanging there. Eventually, Dodson slowed down, and when Johnson came on, Dodson just essentially, in my opinion, he checked out of the fight. I'm not saying he quit, but he was no longer actively trying to win the fight. He'd throw a big shot here and there. He'd keep his guard up. He'd move around. But where was the fire? Where was the sense of urgency? He won the first 2 rounds. That guy wins his last 2 rounds. He took the last rounds off. How are you not coming out guns blazing to try and win this fight? And he didn't do it. It's not me saying this. It's watching the tape. If Dodson wants to win this fight, he's got the athleticism and the movement and the hand speed and foot speed and power to stay on the outside, dart in an angle, dart out in an angle, use a jab, counter to the body, walk Lineker into all sorts of kind of shots, get in, get out, use quick takedowns to get him down to score point and disrupt his stand-up offense and get back out, take him down again, get back out. He can do all that stuff. But the thing about it is there's two things you never know about John Dodson. One, is he going to fight hard all fight long? And two, is he going to fight smart all fight long? I've never seen him do either, unless the fight ends in like a round and a half. After that, his cage IQ and his effort, it's hit or miss. He'll give you that for about 30 seconds and give you 4.5 minutes of nothing. He'll fight super smart for a minute and then just make the most ridiculous maneuvers and counters you can imagine. And that's always been his downfall. He's the kind of athlete who should be a champion based on just athleticism alone. And he's got a good team. And I think his team tells him what he needs to do, and I think he doesn't execute. That's just my opinion. I don't know this. It's just what I see. He's been in a bunch of fights that he should have dominated, or he could have crushed guys in, and he eked out on them. He could have been the flyweight champion. And the only reason he's not is because he checked out of the fight. I know that Johnson made adjustments. I know that he started getting him in the clinch and working him to the body. But if you have a good team and you've watched film, you know what he's going to do. How did you not have a counter? How do you not have a 2-round? How do you have a 2-round cushion and then lose the fight on point? You get swept in the last 3 rounds. How do you do that?
Those are some good points there. Those are definitely some good points, and I think it's interesting to see if Dodson, because the thing is, I think that Dodson is starting to pace himself in these big fights. Because if you look at how he fought Demetrius Johnson the second time, he paced himself in a way that he paced himself out of the fight. Like he looked like he just couldn't get started at any point in time. So I'm interested to see if Lineker, who's very patient. If you looked at the way he fought Michael McDonald, he was extremely patient until he got to the point where he was able to land that shot that put him down. So it's interesting to see. I'm going to be interested in seeing what type of fight this is, because I don't think it's going to be as much of a barn burner from the start that people think it will be. It's not going to be like when Lineker fought Francisco Rivera and they were both just in there chucking bombs at each other. It's not going to be like that. And I think it's going to be more of a controlled, tempered type pace early, with the potential of someone getting put out late.
I can see that, but the thing about it is, and I'm not speaking. I'm not a fighter. Once again, I always say this so people don't think I'm trying to down fighters. I'm just going from my experience in sparring. I'm a person who likes to control pace with movement, jab, feints, angles, kind of bait people in, which is what Dodson would have to be doing. to fight this, but that takes energy because especially with a guy who's looking for contact. Lineker isn't afraid of getting hit. He's looking for exchanges. He's trying to force exchanges. And the worst part for Dodson yet is Lineker will attack the body. When somebody's throwing punches to the body and somebody's walking you down and somebody's staying on you, Lineker isn't wild with his pressure and his aggression. He gets wild at points, but initially he tries to apply a lot of aggression, but it's deliberate aggression. Dodson's not going to hit him and make him just get scared and back off. He's not going to hit him with a big shot and have Lineker holster his gun. He hits Lineker with a big shot. Lineker is coming right back with 2 or 3. Lineker is going to attack the body. Lineker is going to try to press him. Lineker is going to try to get Dodson to overextend himself so that he can land counter shots on him. That's all I did with Michael McDonald. He walked McDonald down. McDonald couldn't pivot. McDonald couldn't hit an angle. McDonald wouldn't tie him up. McDonald couldn't use a jab. He just stayed in his face. And eventually McDonald decided I have to sit down in my stance, and I'm going to exchange with him. I'm going to get his respect so I can get the space, or I'm going to put him out. When he sat down in exchange, he lost, and he couldn't recover. And as athletic as Dodson is, I don't know that he has the cardio or the defensive awareness to fight that fight 1-2 rounds, especially with a guy who's going to be consistently chasing you. Lineker throws a lot of punches. Lineker throws punches when he's tired, he throws them when he's hurt, he throws them when he's not hurt, he throws them when he's angry, he throws them when he's sad, he throws punches when it's a good day, he throws punches when it's a bad day. He's going to force you to fight. And if Dodson's whole game plan is to just control the pace and pace himself, I don't know that he hits hard enough to do that, and I don't know that he's defensively responsible or has good enough conditioning to do that. That takes a lot of energy. That's Floyd Mayweather. I'm going to hit you and not get hit and roll with shots and flip shots and counter shots. It looks like somebody's running, but it's not. And it takes a lot of work to do that. And once again, will Dodson do that for 3, 5 rounds, however long it is? And B, can Dodson's cardio hold up for him to do that for 3 or 5 or however many rounds it is for him to win that fight? It hasn't done it yet against lesser fighters. So I don't know why all of a sudden I'm going to believe that he's going to do it against pretty much the most vicious and mean streets fighter he's faced, and the guy who kind of sets the highest pace and looks for the most contact. Nobody looks for contact like Lineker. Nobody throws like Lineker. Nobody's trying to savagely end you like Lineker. He wants to punish you. He wants to hurt you. Now, Dodson has the skills to do what you're saying. I don't know if he can do it all round long. Like you said, maybe he'll stay late, but usually it takes like about a round and a half. And I think if Lineker catches him early, Dodson's going to bite down and start swinging back. And that's going to be what causes him to lose the fight. Not a lack of skill, not a lack of ability, a lack of cardio, and a lack of in-cage adjustment, in-cage intelligence.
Some good breakdown there, sir. Some very great breakdown. There's another big fight on this card, too, that I'm looking forward to. When Will Brooks faces, I can't remember the guy's first name. Give me a second. Will Brooks and Oliveira. What's the guy's first name?
Oh man, it's not Charles Oliveira.
Is it? I think it's the other Charles Oliveira.
Are there two?
Yeah, there's the Do Bronx, and then there's the other cowboy.
Oh yeah, Cowboy. Yeah, I don't know his name, but I know who you're speaking of. Yeah, that should actually be that's a good fight. It's not a great one, but it's a good one.
What? Alex Oliveira. That's his name. Alex. I forgot there. What do you think about this fight? There is Will Brooks someone who's going to grow into a lightweight contender, or remember everyone's talking about Eddie Alvarez as the UFC champion, but remember Will Brooks beat Michael Chandler twice thoroughly. So is he someone that we're kind of forgetting about in this conversation?
Brooks, I like Brooks. He's gotten a little bit better about fighting complete fights instead of length, depending on his athleticism and size. He used to muscle and athlete his way through fights, and that doesn't last when you're fighting top-end athletes and people who are used to fighting top-end athletes. They're accustomed to that. So you can't get away with that as much in the UFC as you did in Bellator. Bellator, when he was just refining his skills, he'd do some basic stuff and basically cruise and fight. Even against Ross Pearson, he was in spots where he had trouble. Oliveira can't grapple. That's his main issue. He's a dynamic striker. He's got power. He's got athleticism. but he can't grapple. And Brooks is a big, strong, physical guy who can tie you up in a clinch and take you down and control you and work you over. The biggest hole for Brooks, and I've been saying this for years, and I've said this to people who know him, and I've said this to people who train with him. In my opinion, his defense is awful. His defense on the feet is just terrible. So Oliveira's going to have his moments where he can land on them because, once again, Brooks isn't a world-class wrestler. He doesn't just manhandle people and finish people left and right with clean, explosive takedowns and just control people non-stop. I think you can get up from Brooks. I think you can get Brooks off you. I think you can defend some of his shots. But Oliveira and Brooks isn't a great submission guy either, so it's not like you have to worry about getting finished when you force these huge scrambles. But Oliveira's defensive grappling isn't it's negligible at best. He's not a threat to finish, in my opinion. He's not a threat to control you in a guard. So I think Brooks should be able to basically get inside on him, tie him up, get him down, and just pepper him and rinse and repeat. There's going to be some rough spots. There should be, because in every Brooks fight there is against a guy who got some athleticism to his size. It can keep from being manhandled by him. So he's going to have spots where he's going to be in danger. But Brooks should win this, and he should win it going away. And after this, they're going to have to put him in with like a top 15, top 12 type guy, because these kind of guys are he's fighting the same kind of guy. 1-note guys who don't have a lot of dimension to their fighting and aren't necessarily the most. I don't know. Aren't the most. They just don't have a lot of volume. They don't have a lot of nuance to their game. They have nuance in key areas, but they don't have it all around. And to fight a guy like Brooks with his athleticism and his overall skill set, you have to have a balanced skill set yourself to really test him and really push him and make him uncomfortable. Pearson didn't have it, and Oliveira doesn't have it either. He's either going to knock him out, or he's going to get taken down and beat up and finish himself. It's really the only two ways the fight is going to go. If Brooks gets submitted by Oliveira, he's going to have to reconsider his training methods and reconsider his approach to fighting. That just shouldn't happen, in my opinion. So I think he wins it, and he wins it going away. There'll be some rough spots if he gets a little bit too lazy, or if he can't control Oliveira and take him down consistently and just hold him. Because, like I said, Brooks' defense isn't very good. But outside of that, he should just win the fight. It should be very similar to the fight with Raphael Pearson, in my opinion.
Okay, I can definitely look at that breakdown there. I think that this is a big fight for Will Brooks, and he needs to get this win if he's going to, cement himself in a conversation to get an eventual.
It's going to take a while, though. He's in the wrong division. He managed to get himself into a title shot, but there's guys who are like on 5-fight winning streaks at 55, and they're nowhere near a title shot. There's a lot of guys who are capable of putting your lights out or finishing you, even guys who he's favored against. So it's not going to be an easy climb, and he can't afford any missteps. He really can't. A lot of pressure's on him. He fought his way out of Bellator to get to this spot. So, it's not like he has a lot of options outside of the UFC if this doesn't go well for him. So he's got a lot of pressure on him, and he's got a lot of fights he's got to win before he can be in position to be considered for a title fight. And he hasn't fought a guy who's really good enough to get him even in that fringe contender status or fringe contender conversation. I mean, Ross Pearson, how many fights has he lost recently? Oliveira, he's good, but who has he really beat that makes him a name in the UFC? No one. Brooks is still trying to find a name guy who can get him that cachet, that legitimacy that makes him known as a legitimate lightweight contender. He doesn't have it yet. He's just another guy who's coming in, who's got some potential, who's accomplishing another organization as of right now.
So, interesting thing is that I think that the fight that the path to a title shot might be shorter than you think, though, because if Alvarez does hold the title after UFC 205, they do. Brooks and Alvarez have been going at it since before Alvarez even joined the UFC. They've been bickering over Twitter and all that stuff. So if they pick that back up and it picked up enough steam, that could be enough reason for the UFC to make that fight as it is now. They don't need a lot of a reason now. I mean, they make fights left and right just because someone has the potential to sell. So I think if 2016 ends and Eddie Alvarez is still champion and Will Brooks wins one, maybe two more fights, with this fight and one other, I can see him putting himself in a position to talk his way into the title picture based off of the fact that he never lost his Bellator title, and based off of the fact that him and Alvarez already have a history across social media.
He'd probably have to win 3 fights, because if Alvarez beats McGregor, Alvarez, even if he wins dominantly, he's gonna do the same thing Chris Weidman did when he beat Silva. He's gonna ask for a rematch, because it'll be a bigger fight, and he'll probably be able to really cash in on the rematch. So if he beats McGregor, he's gonna ask for a rematch. That's the biggest fight out there for him. So Bruce is gonna have to win at least this fight, the next fight, and at least one other fight, because that fight between the rematch between, if Alvarez beats him, the rematch between him and McGregor will probably be 3-6 months, depending on how the fight goes and how much damage is done to each guy. And if he loses, then I don't know that Brooks still might want to fight Alvarez, but I don't know that he might. He might figure, hey, I'm on the way up. I'm not taking this fight with this dude when he just came off a big loss. He might take that approach too. There's a lot of fighters do that. They want to fight a guy until when the guy has something they want. That guy loses. Also, that fight, there's not really any more purpose for that fight outside of just a personal vendetta. And once again, like we keep saying, more and more people are looking at this as a business, not just something they do for free or a way to snag their graduates. They want to get paid. They want to get their brand out there. They want to establish a legacy. And sometimes fighting a guy who's going to lose, especially in the UFC, where you have multiple guys whose title shots and rankings, fighting a guy who's on a losing streak. Nobody wants to take their chances. Ask Dustin Poirier. He was in the cusp of a title shot. Now he's way at the back of the line. Ask Ben Rothwell. Cusp of a title shot. Way at the back of the line. All because they fought guys on losing streaks who came up big and beat them.
I mean, yeah, that's definitely some good analysis there. Let's talk about one more topic before we bring the show to a close today. Did you see the news about Jose Aldo asking for his release and then saying he's going to retire? When I read the story, I'm not mad at him for it. He basically said that he's at a point in his career where he can't afford to believe or take Dana White's word for anything. Dana White said that McGregor's going back down to featherweight to defend his title against the winner of Aldo Edgar. Aldo goes out there and wins in dominant fashion. That fight's not happening. Then he says, we want you to fight at UFC 205, but it's either Max Holloway or Anthony Pettis. I'm not taking that fight on a short notice, not having a full camp. He offered to take the fight on December 10th. They told him no. So at this point, I'm not saying I feel for Aldo in a sympathy standpoint, but this is a man who dominated the featherweight division for years. Yes, he lost in 13 seconds. I get that. I understand. He dominated at that division for years. If it's okay to give Ronda Rousey an immediate title shot, if it's okay to keep Cain Velasquez in the heavyweight title picture for years, you give him McGregor a lightweight title shot. He never won he's never even fought in that division in the UFC. Like, there's so many different question marks that you have to ask, and here it is. Jose Aldo's threatening to walk away from the sport. Do you believe he's going to do it? And if you were in Dana White's position, how would you react to that?
First of all, I'm not quite sure if I believe him, because if he wants to retire, why doesn't he just retire? Why is he asking for his release? Like, if you just want to retire, say I retire, and then if you decide you want to fight, you can come back to the UFC. Like, if you're really serious about being out, then just retire. And then if you change your mind, come back, fight for the UFC. It's like, it makes me think that he wants to go to another organization, because why else would he ask the UFC to release him? If he tells Dana, I want to retire, Dana White's not going to stop him from retiring. Dana White's not going to stop him from doing whatever he wants in his free time. But Dana White will say, if you choose to come back and fight, you're fighting for us. So why does he want to release if he's just going to retire? Just retire.
See, because when I hear that, when I hear that, it gives way too much power to the UFC. Like, and they shouldn't be able to do, like, they wouldn't do that to Conor McGregor. They are showing that they don't have the ability to control him in a way. So if I was Aldo, I'm like, you know what? I'm valuable. I've done more than enough to earn my position in this sport. So you know what? I want out, and I want you to give me out. And he's willing to fight these guys because I'm interested to see how he's going to approach this from a contractual court standpoint, if there has any basis on saying that they're breaching the contract. I'm interested in that. But I'm not mad at him for asking his release because obviously they're not interested in using him in the way that he should be used.
We're saying the way he should be used, but if they're his employers, the way he should be used is based off of them. Just because he doesn't agree with it doesn't mean anything. I mean, no offense to him. I'm an Aldo fan. I respect his honesty. I respect the fact that he's been open since he's been the champion instead of waiting until he lost the title, and he's a has-been for him to start taking shots at the UFC. I respect that. But the one thing you got to think about Aldo is he's not a draw, and he never has been. Two, he's pulled out of a lot of fights. There's been like huge periods of time where he hasn't performed. And I'm not saying Conor McGregor should have been treated better than him, but McGregor has fought short notice. He's fought injured. He's fought any sort of way you want. He's dependable, not just financially, like bringing in money. He is dependable. When you say Conor McGregor's going to fight, it doesn't matter who falls out. Conor McGregor will still fight, win or lose. He's taking chances that Aldo would never take. So I can see why the UFC would side with the guy who's the bigger star and the more dependable guy. Who wouldn't? Who's not going to side on the side of the better talent and the guy who's going to show up every day? I mean, that's not even a question. If you think about it business-wise, that's why Manning and Brady can be who they are. They're the best, and they're dependable.
You said something very, very, very interesting here. You said that he's an employee of the UFC. He's actually not. He's an independent contractor. They don't treat these guys as if they're employees. They don't have the same rights that employees have. So why should Aldo give them the same rights as employers?
Well, that's true, and that's I'm guessing that's the only way he's going to be able to attack this contract. That's the only thing he's able to say is, I'm not their employee. I'm an independent contractor, so I shouldn't have to be able to fight for them if I want. I should be able to go somewhere if I want, and that'd be the only argument he has, because nothing else Dana White said that doesn't hold up in court. Well, Dana said, yeah, but did he write down a contract? No. Okay, so that doesn't matter. And another thing is, I don't know why Aldo thinks he's special, unless you're a huge draw, and even then, Dana's not always very fond of people. I mean, look at Frankie Edgar. How often was Frankie Edgar told he's going to get a rematch? Multiple. How many fights did he have to win before he got a second shot at Aldo? A lot of guys got done wrong by the UFC on Aldo's watch, and Aldo didn't seem to have any concern until it started affecting him as an individual. And that's the problem with MMA fighters as a whole. It's a singular sport. You don't really care about the other guys until it impacts you. I get where Jose Aldo is coming from. I respect where he's coming from. I think they should let him go fight somewhere else, or let him retire and release him, whatever he wants. I feel they should do that. But based on the UFC's position and what they want out of it and what their goal is, which is to make the UFC the most money and make the UFC the biggest brand, I wouldn't do it for him. Why should I? He didn't fight injured when he wanted him to. He didn't take short notice fights when he wanted him to. He's been running his mouth saying how crappy you are and how unprofessional you are and how this replay deal stinks and this and that. Why am I doing you any favors? It's not like you played ball with me. Not like you were a company man like Chuck Liddell or Matt Hughes. You didn't play ball, and you don't bring in money. So why am I doing you any favors? Why am I bending over for you? I hate to say that as a person because I believe in helping people. But if you look at the bottom line, what has Jose Aldo done to help the UFC out, where the UFC feels like, you know what, we need to do him a solid? I mean, Dana talks trash about George St. Pierre. You really think Jose Aldo's above being talked down on? You really? I mean, he held Randy Couture to a contract. You think Jose Aldo is above that? No, he's not. He doesn't care. He's about what helps out the UFC and what helps out his pocket. So Aldo's gonna have to fight his way out, and I don't know how he gets out of it, except for saying, I'm an independent contractor. I should have the right to do this and do that. But the UFC is a multi-billion-dollar company, and I can't imagine their lawyers haven't set up contracts and don't have answers to these sort of questions that Jose Aldo is going to be presenting. And I know Jose Aldo made good money, but he ain't making Conor McGregor money. So how long can he afford to be in court with the UFC and be retired? To have that kind of money going out, and you're not bringing money in? I mean, unless there's something I don't know, I don't think that he can afford to have that fight. The UFC can afford to do it for years. I don't know that he can afford to, and nobody cares about Jose Aldo in America. It's not going to bring them any bad press. Not really. Not on a national level. Nobody's going to want to hear that. They're going to hear a guy who got knocked out in 13 seconds, getting the rematch, and all anybody's going to say, and I'm going to put my asshole hat on for a moment. If you wanted to call shots and you wanted to dictate, you should have won. When you were the champ, killing everybody, UFC couldn't tell you anything. You got knocked out, and now you're talking about respect and you need to give me a second shot. You lost the fight. All you had to do was win. He beats McGregor. None of this conversation happened. Same thing I said about Frankie Edgar. You want to get all these shots. You want to have all these titles. You want to get pushed. You didn't beat him. So now you're sitting there complaining about how they're treating you after you lost. Sorry, you lost. You're in the fight game. That's what happened. Winners get cheered and pat on the back. Losers get run over and have dirt thrown on them. Conor McGregor lost. Look what happened to him. Everybody piled on him. Then he came back and won. Now he's calling shots again. So he lost the fight. And when he lost that fight, he had to know that he was only getting one shot at McGregor. I never believed there was going to be a rematch. He had to know this guy is a huge star. If he beats me, there will be no rematch. I can't afford to lose this fight. He had the one fight he couldn't afford to lose, and he lost. And the UFC just doesn't care. They're not going to kill themselves to keep to give him opportunities. He can just give up on that McGregor rematch. That's not happening unless McGregor decides he wants it. And McGregor can make money fighting anybody. And worse yet, McGregor is fighting a champion at a higher weight. So how can you even really criticize him? He's ducking the guy he knocked out in 13 seconds to fight one of the guys who's going to go down as an all-time great at lightweight because he's won titles in every organization outside of the UFC and now is a UFC champ? Is that really ducking? That's not ducking. Wanting to fight RDA isn't ducking Jose Aldo. He's choosing the baddest guy at a higher weight class. You can't even say that he's scared of him. What is he scared of?
Sir, those are all facts there, man. All facts. All facts. So we're gonna go ahead and bring this show on to a close. We've been having a great conversation about MMA. I am rescheduling the interview with Chris Piriz because he was unable to join us today due to some technical difficulties. We were kind of trying to work it out, but couldn't get it straightened out. So we're gonna reschedule that interview.
Difficulties, but we still gave you good content.
Yeah, man, it's a fantastic show.
Still getting top-notch discussions, top-notch analysis. This is us with technical difficulties. So everybody who's competing with us, y'all need to get your game on right because we're still killing y'all with technical difficulties. You don't want to see what happens when it's going smooth. I'm telling y'all right now.
Totally right there, man. Let everybody know where they can find you and where they can listen or read what you got to say on a day-to-day basis.
As always, I'm on Twitter. Like I said, ask me a question. DM me if you want, or tweet me. I will answer any and all questions. If you want to answer it on the show, just put hashtag MMA Ratings Podcast. I will answer on the show in a long form, or I can answer it on Twitter. I'm legendary for my rants, and I will break down fights like I'm writing a book through 140 characters at a time. So I'm never too busy for anybody who appreciates the finer points of combat sports, whether it's boxing or MMA. And I really need to start getting on the site and writing stuff. I've been really lazy about that, but in this next month or so, I'm going to start getting better about that so I can have something in long form for people to kind of consume. But yeah, just
hey man, joining on the fun.
Yeah, definitely. Just hit me up on Twitter, and like I said, sometimes I might hold back on an answer just because somebody might be having me scout somebody, or I'm working with somebody, and I can't answer right away. But as it gets closer to that fight night or whatever, then you'll get everything you need from me because I'll be like, oh, well, there ain't nothing going to happen that ain't going to happen already. So here's the deal.
So with that in mind, you can always find me at rgarcia_sports talking about just about everything, man. MMA, NFL. I got some NFL work to do tonight. Sports, and more
That's
sports.
a surprise, man. You got work to do? No,
absolutely not. Right? Absolutely not. So get back with us next week. We will be here. I will be in Orlando, but I am still going to make sure this show get taped. We are going to talk more MMA, and yeah, we got a hell of a this is going to be a great fall and winter season, folks. Strap yourselves in because there's going to be a lot of great action going down.
Hey guys, Raphael needs to get some rest. Y'all need to start listening. We need to get more listens and more likes on the show so this man does not pass out from exhaustion. I'm concerned for him. I can't do nothing from here. I'm down south. I can't do nothing. You need to get on this show more and start telling your friends so this man can take a day off. I'm not even going to ask for a week. Just give me a day, Raphael, where you just chill out, and I will be happy.
I'm coming up on one, man. I have a vacation coming up starting October 7th. I'm not sure how little bit of work I'm going to be doing, but October 7th, 3 o'clock, the vacation begins, and it's beginning with copious amounts of alcohol. Please believe.
You're a good guy. You're a hard worker. You know MMA and other sports very well. I just don't want to see nothing happen to you. I care about people, man. I don't want to see nothing happen to you.
Well, awesome, man. I definitely appreciate it, dude. So let's go ahead and close the show out, and we will be back next week with more action to talk about.
Hey, thanks to everybody for listening.
Have a great night, man.